Am I the a-hole for leaving my own birthday party after my sister announced her engagement? I, 24F, have been dealing with some family issues for a while now, and I need an outside perspective on a recent incident. Some background: I'm the oldest of 3 children, currently pursuing my master's degree at Brown University. My boyfriend, Anthony, is doing his PhD at Cambridge. We've been in a long-distance relationship for a while now. Growing up, I always felt immense pressure from my parents to succeed. They were strict and had high expectations for me, which led to me developing what I now recognize as eldest daughter syndrome. Meanwhile, my younger sister, Andrea, 20F, seemed to get everything handed to her on a silver platter. Recently, I flew back to the States with Anthony to celebrate my 24th birthday and introduce him to my family. Here's where things went sideways. During what was supposed to be my birthday celebration, Andrea announced that her boyfriend had proposed to her. Suddenly, all attention shifted to her engagement, completely overshadowing my special day. When I didn't seem thrilled about this news, my parents and sister asked why I wasn't happy for her. Feeling hurt and overlooked, I left the party with Anthony and my younger brother, Edward, 14M, to have dinner elsewhere. Now my sister, her fiancé, and my parents are furious that we left and are demanding an apology. I refuse to give one, as I feel they're the ones who should be apologizing to me. Am I the a-hole for leaving my own birthday party under these circumstances? Edit. Thank you all for your responses. I'm overwhelmed by the support and advice I've received. I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can. Update 1. Hello everyone. Many of you asked for more details about what exactly happened at my birthday party, so I've decided to share the full story. Fair warning, it's a bit of a roller coaster. To recap, I'm Helen, 24F, currently doing my master's at Brown. My boyfriend, Anthony, is working on his PhD at Cambridge. For my 24th birthday, we flew back to the States to celebrate with my family. Little did I know what a disaster it would turn out to be. The day started off well enough. My parents had organized a small gathering at our family home in Rhode Island. It wasn't anything extravagant, just a nice dinner with some close family friends. I was excited to introduce Anthony to everyone and have a day that was, for once, about me. Anthony and I arrived early to help set up. My younger brother, Edward, was there too, eager to meet Anthony. My sister, Andrea, was conspicuously absent, having texted that she'd be fashionably late with her boyfriend. As guests started arriving, I felt a familiar anxiety creeping in. You see, gatherings like this always brought out my parents' tendency to compare their children. I could already hear my mom telling her friends about my prestigious program at Brown, while my dad boasted about Anthony's research at Cambridge. It was flattering but also uncomfortable. I've always felt the weight of their expectations, and even now, it was hard to shake. The party was in full swing when Andrea finally arrived with her boyfriend, Tom. I noticed immediately that she seemed giddy, more so than usual. She hugged me tightly and wished me a happy birthday, but there was something off about her behavior. We all sat down for dinner, and that's when things started to go sideways. My mom had just brought out the cake, and everyone was singing "Happy Birthday." As I was about to blow out the candles, Andrea suddenly stood up, clinking her glass for attention. "Before Helen makes a wish," she announced in an overly sweet voice, "Tom and I have some news we'd like to share." My heart sank. I knew at that moment exactly what was coming. Andrea held out her left hand, a sizable diamond glittering on her ring finger. "We're engaged!" The room erupted in cheers and congratulations. My parents were beside themselves with joy. Friends crowded around Andrea and Tom, admiring the ring and asking about proposal details, and there I sat in front of a cake with unblown candles, completely forgotten. I locked eyes with Anthony across the table. He looked as stunned as I felt. Edward, bless him, reached under the table and squeezed my hand supportively. "Isn't this wonderful, Helen?" my mom gushed, finally remembering I was there. "Your sister's getting married," I mumbled something non-committal, fighting back tears. Andrea was soaking up the attention, describing how Tom had proposed on the beach at sunset. My dad was already talking about wedding venues. "Helen," my mom prompted again, "don't you have anything to say to your sister?" I felt all eyes turn to me. The expectation was clear. I was supposed to be thrilled, to push aside my own celebration and focus on Andrea's news, but I couldn't do it, not this time. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why today?" The room fell silent. Andrea's smile faltered for a moment before she recovered. "What do you mean, sis? I thought you'd be happy for me." "It's my birthday," I said louder this time. "Couldn't this have waited until tomorrow or yesterday or any other day?" "Helen," my dad scolded, "don't be selfish. This is wonderful news. That's when I lost it. Years of pent-up frustration came pouring out. Selfish? I'm being selfish? It's my birthday. The one day that's supposed to be about me. And Andrea has to make it about herself again. Andrea's face clouded with anger. Oh please, it's just a birthday. You have one every year. This is my engagement. A birthday you're only having because you're hiding in England, my mom added, shocking me with her bluntness. We barely see you anymore. Helen, can't you just be happy for your sister? I looked around the room. My parents were glaring at me disapprovingly. Andrea was playing the victim, dabbing at non-existent tears. Our family friends looked uncomfortable, unsure where to look. Only Anthony, Edward, and a couple of my closest friends seemed to understand my pain. Without a word, I stood up and walked out of the dining room. Anthony and Edward followed immediately. I heard my dad calling after us, demanding we come back, but I couldn't bear to be in that house a moment longer. The three of us ended up at a small diner down the street. We sat there for hours, picking at greasy fries and milkshakes as I alternated between crying and ranting. Anthony held my hand the whole time while Edward kept trying to make me laugh with his terrible jokes. It was there, in that dingy diner, that I realized something important. These two people, my boyfriend and my little brother, were my real family. They were the ones who truly cared about my feelings and my happiness. When we finally returned to the house late that night, the party was long over. My parents tried to confront me, but I refused to engage. I packed my bags, and Anthony and I left for a hotel. We flew back to the UK 2 days later, earlier than planned. In the months since, I've had a lot of time to reflect on what happened. The birthday disaster was a wake-up call. It showed me just how dysfunctional my family dynamics had become and how much I had been suppressing my own feelings to keep the peace. I'm still working through all of this in therapy. My relationship with my parents and Andrea remains strained, though we're slowly trying to rebuild. Edward has been my lifeline through it all, and I'm endlessly grateful for him. As for Anthony, seeing how he stood by me through all of this has only strengthened our relationship. We're now seriously discussing our future together post-graduation. This whole experience has been painful, but also oddly liberating. For the first time, I'm prioritizing my own feelings and setting clear boundaries with my family. It's not easy, but I know it's necessary for my own well-being. Thank you all for listening to my story. If you're dealing with family issues of your own, remember it's okay to stand up for yourself. Your feelings matter. Update 2. Hello everyone. A few months ago, I posted about leaving my birthday party after my sister announced her engagement. The response was overwhelming, and I wanted to update you all on what's happened since then. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Reading through the comments made me realize I'm not alone in dealing with family issues like this, and it gave me the courage to take some much-needed steps. For those who didn't see my original post, here's a quick recap. I'm Helen, 24F, the eldest of 3 siblings. I'm currently pursuing my master's at Brown University while my boyfriend, Anthony, is doing his PhD at Cambridge. On my 24th birthday, I flew back to the States with Anthony to celebrate with my family. During what was supposed to be my birthday party, my younger sister, Andrea, 20F, announced her engagement, completely overshadowing my special day. Hurt and upset, I left the party with Anthony and my younger brother, Edward. Now on to the update. After the birthday fiasco, I returned to the UK to continue my studies. I took some time to process everything and reflect on the advice I received here. Many of you suggested therapy, and I'm happy to say I took that advice to heart. I found a therapist who specializes in family dynamics and eldest daughter syndrome, and it's been eye-opening. Through therapy, I've started to unpack a lot of the pressure and expectations I've been carrying around. Growing up, I always felt like I had to be perfect, get the best grades, attend the most prestigious university, and have the perfect relationship. It was exhausting, and I realize now that a lot of that pressure came from within. Yes, my parents had high expectations, but I had internalized them to an unhealthy degree. I've also been working on setting boundaries, which has been challenging but necessary. I realized that part of the reason Andrea's behavior bothers me so much is that I never learned to say no or stand up for myself. I was always trying to be the bigger person, but in reality, I was just letting myself be walked all over. As for my family, well, that's been complicated. After I left the party, my parents and Andrea were furious. They sent a barrage of texts and voicemails demanding an apology. At first, I ignored them, needing space to process everything. But after a few weeks of therapy, I felt ready to address the situation. I wrote a long email to my family explaining how I felt about the birthday incident and the years of favoritism and unfair treatment. I was honest about how hurt I've been and how their actions have affected me. I also set clear boundaries about what I would and wouldn't accept going forward. The responses were mixed. My mom seemed genuinely shocked and upset to learn how I'd been feeling all these years. She apologized for not realizing the pressure I was under and for allowing Andrea to overshadow my birthday. We've had a few long, emotional phone calls since then, and while we still have a lot to work through, I feel like we're making progress. My dad, on the other hand, was more defensive. He insisted that they had always treated us equally and that I was being overly sensitive. It's frustrating, but I'm trying to be patient and hope that he'll come around eventually. Andrea's response was the most surprising. At first, she was angry and accused me of trying to ruin her engagement, but after a few weeks, she sent me a message apologizing. She admitted that she's always felt insecure compared to me, my academic achievements, my relationship with Anthony, even my appearance. She said she often tried to one-up me because she felt it was the only way to get attention. While I appreciate her apology, I'm still cautious. Years of rivalry and hurt feelings can't be erased overnight. We're taking small steps to rebuild our relationship, but I'm maintaining firm boundaries. The real MVP in all of this has been my little brother, Edward. Despite being only 14, he's shown incredible maturity and support. He's been my confidant throughout this whole ordeal, often providing a balanced perspective on our family dynamics. I'm so grateful for his presence in my life, even if I worry sometimes that he's had to grow up too fast because of our family issues. As for Anthony, he's been my rock through all of this. The long-distance relationship is tough, but he's been incredibly supportive. He's listened to me vent, offered advice when I needed it, and given me space when I needed that. Instead, we're planning our future together, and I'm excited about what lies ahead for us. In terms of my studies, I'm doing well at Brown. The distance from my family has been helpful in focusing on my goals and building a life for myself. I'm set to graduate next year, and Anthony and I are discussing where we might settle after he finishes his PhD. Looking back, I realize that the birthday incident was just the tip of the iceberg. It brought to the surface years of unresolved issues and complex family dynamics. While it was painful at the time, I'm almost grateful it happened. It forced me to confront these issues head-on instead of continuing to sweep them under the rug. I'm not naive enough to think that everything is magically fixed now. There's still a lot of work to be done, especially with my dad and Andrea. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about my relationship with my family. I'm learning to stand up for myself, to set boundaries, and to prioritize my own well-being. To those of you dealing with similar family issues, please know that you're not alone. It's okay to prioritize your mental health, to set boundaries, and to expect respect from your family. Therapy has been incredibly helpful for me, and I highly recommend it if you're struggling. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It truly made a difference in how I approached this situation. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, both in terms of my personal growth and my family relationships. I'll try to respond to your comments if you have any questions. Thank you for reading this long update. Update 3. 6 months after the birthday disaster, confrontations, reconciliations, and unexpected twists. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their continued support and advice. Your comments have been a source of strength during this challenging time. After my last post, many of you encouraged me to stand my ground and continue working on myself. I took that advice to heart, and I'm grateful I did because things have taken some unexpected turns. First, let's talk about my sister Andrea's engagement. Remember how she announced it at my birthday party? Well, it turns out that wasn't the fairy tale she made it out to be. About 2 months after the incident, Andrea called me in tears. Her fiancé, Tom, had broken off the engagement. According to Andrea, Tom had been having second thoughts for a while. He felt pressured into proposing because Andrea had been dropping hints, and our parents kept asking when they would make it official. The birthday announcement was apparently Andrea's idea. She thought making it public would cement the engagement. Instead, it was the last straw for Tom. I had mixed feelings about this news. On one hand, I felt a twinge of schadenfreude, isn't that awful? On the other hand, hearing my little sister sob over the phone broke my heart. Despite our issues, she's still my sister. This event led to an unexpected heart-to-heart between Andrea and me. For the first time in years, we had an honest conversation about our relationship. She admitted to feeling insecure and overshadowed by my achievements, which drove her to seek attention in unhealthy ways. I opened up about the pressure I felt and how her actions have hurt me over the years. It wasn't an easy conversation. There were tears, accusations, and old wounds reopened. But by the end of it, we both felt like we understood each other better. We're not best friends overnight, but we're working on rebuilding our relationship. Andrea has even started seeing a therapist to work through her own issues, which I'm really proud of her for doing. Now on to my parents. Remember how my dad was defensive and my mom seemed shocked by my feelings? Well, things came to a head about a month ago. I was back in the States for a conference, and I decided it was time for a face-to-face conversation with them. I sat them down and laid everything out. The pressure I felt, the favoritism I've perceived, the hurt caused by years of dismissing my feelings. I used techniques I've learned in therapy to express myself clearly and set boundaries. My dad, true to form, was initially defensive. He insisted they had only wanted the best for me, and that I was misinterpreting their actions. But as the conversation went on, something shifted. Maybe it was seeing me stand my ground, or maybe it was my mom's reaction. But he finally seemed to hear me. My mom, on the other hand, broke down in tears. She apologized profusely, admitting that she had no idea how much pain I had been in. She revealed that her own upbringing had been strict and achievement-oriented, and she had unknowingly passed that pressure on to me. It was a long, emotionally draining conversation, but it felt like a breakthrough. For the first time, I felt truly heard by my parents. We agreed to work on our communication, and for them to respect my boundaries. They've even agreed to try family therapy, which is a huge step for them. As for my little brother, Edward, he continues to be an absolute rock. At 15, he shows more emotional intelligence than most adults I know. He's been mediating between family members and providing support to everyone. I worry sometimes that he's taking on too much, but he assures me he's okay. We have weekly video chats where we catch up, and I'm continually amazed by his insight and compassion. On the personal front, things with Anthony are going well. The long-distance relationship is challenging, but we're making it work. We've started discussing our future more seriously. He's set to finish his PhD next year, and we're exploring options for where we might settle down together. The support he's shown throughout this family drama has only strengthened our relationship. My studies at Brown are going well. I'm on track to graduate with my master's degree next semester, and I've started looking into PhD programs. The distance from my family drama has allowed me to focus on my goals and ambitions. One unexpected development is that I've started a blog about eldest daughter syndrome and family dynamics. After my original post here gained traction, I realized there are many others out there struggling with similar issues. The blog has become a platform for sharing experiences and offering support. It's been therapeutic for me, and from the comments I've received, helpful for others too. Looking back at where I was 6 months ago, I'm amazed at how much has changed. The birthday party disaster, as painful as it was, became a catalyst for much-needed changes in my family. We're not perfect, far from it, but we're communicating better and making efforts to understand each other. I've learned a lot about setting boundaries, expressing my needs, and not taking responsibility for others' emotions. It's been a journey of self-discovery and growth, and while it hasn't been easy, I'm grateful for it. To those of you still struggling with family issues, hang in there. Change is possible, but it starts with you. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, seek help when you need it, and prioritize your own well-being. Thank you all again for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and encouragement have made a real difference in my life. I'll keep you updated on any major developments, but for now, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of my family relationships and my own personal growth. Update 4. Just when I thought things were starting to improve, everything fell apart in the most dramatic and heartless way possible. 2 weeks ago, I received a call from Edward. His voice was shaking as he told me that our parents had decided to sell our childhood home. The shock of this news was nothing compared to what he said next. They were moving to Florida, and they wanted Edward to come with them. I was stunned. How could they make such a massive decision without consulting me? Why would they uproot Edward's life like this? I immediately called my parents, demanding an explanation. The conversation that followed was one of the most painful experiences of my life. My father, cold and businesslike, informed me that they had been planning this move for months. They saw no reason to consult me as I was no longer a part of the family's daily life. When I protested about Edward, my mother chimed in, saying it was for the best and that Edward needed a fresh start away from all the drama. I was speechless. All the progress I thought we'd made, all the heartfelt conversations and promises to do better, it all meant nothing. The only silver lining in this dark cloud was Edward. My sweet, loyal little brother was distraught about the move. He didn't want to leave his school, his friends, and most of all, he didn't want to be separated from me. A moment of rebellion I'm incredibly proud of. He told our parents he refused to go, which led to a massive argument with our parents threatening to legally force Edward to move with them. In desperation, Edward asked if he could come live with me instead, and that's where I am now. I'm in the middle of a legal battle with my own parents for custody of my 15-year-old brother. Anthony has been incredibly supportive, even offering to move to the States to help if needed. My studies at Brown have taken a backseat as I navigate this unexpected crisis. I'm angry, hurt, and honestly still in shock. How could my family do this? How could they discard me so easily and try to take Edward away too? The betrayal runs deep, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them. As I write this, I'm waiting to hear back from my lawyer about our options. Edward is staying with me temporarily while we sort this out. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the family I knew is gone. Now it's just Edward and me against the world. To those of you still struggling with family issues, I want to say this. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, reconciliation isn't possible. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to accept that and move on. Build your own family with the people who truly care about you. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'll face it with Edward by my side and Anthony supporting us. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into. I'll update again when I have news about the custody situation. Thank you all for your support throughout this painful journey.